Design has always been a discipline of paradoxes and contradictions. We're designing something forever, as we've been taught, in an economy that forgets. The 7-second attention economy is what we're dealing with. One thing we must not forget, that legacy isn't dead, it's just rebranded as a hashtag. Our identity and the way we design. And that's where the real paradox lives. Not in the tool, but in the mirror. To build permanence in fleeting times, to create the tangible out of the unseen and unknown, to dive into the unknown again and again and again. And what is the evolved designer's role? What are we building? And who are we becoming? So let's start with the first paradox that I think is the most relevant: forever versus fast. Are we building forever? We are using tools that are making us work faster, but we're also building for something that is creating an impact today and a moment, and then it is erased, and the next best thing comes along. We were trained in our architectural education to build forever. But we imagined homes being passed down generations, landmarks that outlasted generations, to build like time was the material and the meaning for every brick and mortar that was laid. But today, we're designing in a culture that forgets faster than it scrolls. You're only as fast, as relevant as the scroll time that you're there for. Projects go live before the paint dries. Everyone's in a rush. Trends turn faster than the tiles. What matters now isn't how long it is going to stand, but how quickly it performs. How fast are we building? How impactful are we being? I once had a client tell me, make it dramatic, make it Instagrammable, make it like a hashtag. And I thought, okay, if you want drama, I mean, have you ever seen how the 4:30 sun hits a textured stone, and that moment where you can stop and stare? But you know what? It doesn't look that great in a camera. So that kind of beauty doesn't go viral. It exists, you can absorb it, but does it really matter to what we do? We used to measure design in the past in decades. This is going to last 20 years. This is going to last 30 years. This is going to be for my next generation. Now we measure it in walkthroughs. How many minutes is this walkthrough? So how long is this space? We're celebrating today a momentary relevance. So what is the deeper irony? The deeper irony is that we've internalized the speed. We build faster, so things expire faster. And the speed has really become the purpose. We think in deliverables because slow is now inefficient. Not impactful is now irrelevant. So we used to ask, will this last 50 years? Now we ask, will this look good in a drone shot? Will this look good at night? What is the impact when the customer enters? This shift, honestly, isn't failure. It's not like we've lost out, but it's an adaptation to how the world is thinking today. And that really is integral to being a designer and being a part of how we all evolve. One thing we must not forget, that legacy isn't dead. It's just rebranded as a hashtag. So how do we design that hashtag? And since we're not building to last, what exactly are we building for? Is it a moment? Is it a trend? Or is it a feeling that stays? It's not in the timeline, but in the timelessness that we must design for. It is not in the surface or the texture, but the way it stays with somebody. So we may not be building temples anymore that will last generations and legacies, but we can still build something sacred, something impactful, a space that holds a memory long after the image fades. And the word that I would like to leave you all with is not permanence anymore. Nothing is permanent, but resonance. What is resonance? Resonance is a sound that just resonates and stays and lingers and builds a memory. You must have heard the new trends of ASMR, which is about sound. So that sound connects you to what is actually happening. So if we build for the senses in a way that it resonates, even while whether it's on a digital screen or whether it's in person. So more than permanence, I think resonance is the new paradox that we're designing for, that what impact does it leave? What is the lingering feeling that it leaves a human with? It may not be visual. Sorry? Absolutely. So if it stays with you, it builds a memory for you. It is said that when you remember something once in 10 years, it stays with you forever. And you keep remembering that. So if a space or what you did there or what you experienced there or what your senses experienced there resonates with you, that you just stay with that memory, that itself is a lingering human permanence of a way. Renderings happen in minutes. AI can generate your first concept before we even had our second coffee. And Pinterest has already shown us what our aesthetic should be based on our algorithms, right? But we tell ourselves that we are evolving and we're becoming more efficient, we're becoming more faster, we are more scalable, we are more future forward, we can develop concepts in seconds. But here's the paradox, that every tool that accelerates you also deletes a part of you. And that's the second paradox, the cost of acceleration, the cost of doing things faster. What is it leading us to? It's not done on purpose, but the erasure, but it's done to the point, from the point of intuition, that we are erasing some part of us just naturally. And that's really evolution. That sketch that you didn't do because it was more difficult, because AI did it for you, or the struggle you skipped of visiting the site because you got the image online, the idea that you don't sit with long enough because you don't have time, you have a deadline. These are the things that take away from the process and from what we are actually able to create. A young designer once told me in my office that, can I just use Midjourney to generate this mood board? And I said that mood boards aren't just about what looks good. They're also about what unsettles you. That when you put it together and it doesn't look good, that also makes you feel something. It also helps you improvise. What you feel by hand, what the textures, the three-dimensional, the haptic quality of everything that we touch, whether it's a leaf, whether it's the way the wind blows that flower, the real-time haptic mood boards are way more impactful than the digital ones. But however, time being short. So when we look at what we produce, the software says it's fine, it works. The AI calls it complete because it's a task. But is it complete or is it just done? There's a difference between complete and done. And that really comes with the cost of acceleration, that we're just ticking tasks, but are we really doing it with 100%? Are we giving it the time that it deserves and the time that it needs? So that's something I'm going to leave everyone with, to think about it. Sometimes it's in the third sketch, sometimes it's in the 13th, and the obsession is really where the magic lives. Speed rewards output, that something gets done. Obsession creates art. And that's really what we seem to be letting go of slightly when we design in the day of being fast. Sometimes it's just staring at a blank screen, and I'm sure we've all gone through it for 2 hours because you're just not ready to fake it and you just can't feel the plan. And that is the kind of creative slowness that the industry no longer rewards, because the next fastest person is going to get to it before you. And maybe it should, maybe it shouldn't, but I mean, the world is what it is today. Because when we do something slowly and when there is a lot of unsettlement, friction forces clarity and brings out textures. Beautiful stones that come through years of friction of a river running against the stone creates these beautiful textures. It gives it character, it gives it clarity, it gives it purpose. And that friction is what we're missing with the smoothness of the acceleration that we are living with. Doubt invites better questions, always great to not know. Struggle carves new thinking. But today AI is clarifying all doubts, giving us all the answers. There is no struggle, there is no question. No software can replicate self-doubt. No software can replicate our inherent thinking. So yes, speed makes us prolific, but slowness makes us precise, it makes us present, and makes us real. I'm not really anti-efficiency. I mean, I have my team here, right? And I keep telling you guys that we need to put a deadline, we need to get to the end point. But I'm suspicious about what it edits out, what you let go. कि खत्म करना है तो ये छोड़ देते हैं, इसको ignore कर देते हैं, या ये is not relevant. So we edit out what we call irrelevant, but because we don't have the time to think about it. So I'll say this, that use every tool, embrace the future, but don't abandon the discomfort. Even if it's for a short while, that, okay, this is irrelevant, but what if I thought like this? Try that. Because that discomfort, that friction, the one that you try to automate your way out of because GPT told you that this is the brief that it should be, and you never thought about the alternate, might be the very thing that was going to make your design have that unforgettable texture and character. So keep that discomfort. It's not just in what we design, it's in everything that we do. I think this applies to life in general. And talking about GPT, that we come to the paradox number 3, which is the empathy inversion. Now, when we humans are designing, we design with empathy. As we all know, that empathy is really the designer's superpower and designer's first tool, that you're designing for another, thinking like them, keeping your biases out of you. But the way the practices have evolved today, it's changed. Empathy was something we long held as our domain, the designer's domain, and the human advantage. Like, humans can empathize, machines can't. We were supposed to listen, we observed, we were intuitive. Designers never just built, they responded. But somewhere along the way, we started chasing something else. We started chasing authorship, that I have designed this. We started designing for signature, that this is my style. We started designing for recognition. Yeah, I want to be published, so I need to make a difference. We began every project not by asking what the people needed or what the client needed, but by wondering how good would it look in my portfolio and how great would it be to present to the next client. Meanwhile, AI has quietly and secretly and consistently started doing the thing that we designers claim to do best. It's listening. It starts with, what do you want? What does the project need? What is the function? What does the user aspire for? No ego, no signature style, no mood swings, no moment of saying that, oh, I have a creative block. It just asks the user. It doesn't want to be known for its work. It just wants to make things work and give you a functioning solution. So the machine is learning to listen while we designers are getting obsessed with being heard and having our signatures out there. So here's the uncomfortable question for all designers. Has artificial intelligence become more human-centric than the humans who have designed it, or the humans who are designing for other humans? Designers have always prided themselves on empathy. But the real empathy isn't about styling. It isn't about the soft palette. It's not saying, oh, this is user-centric in our presentations. Real empathy actually means questioning your own assumptions. Not going with, I believe that this will work. I think that this is better. It's actually asking the client, what do they need, and solving for that. And that really, honestly, is the meaning of the word design. The word design in its actual sense means solving a problem for another. While a lot of us designers are kind of reeling towards being artists, an artist creates for themselves, a designer creates for another. So are we being designers? Are we being artists? And that's a dialogue we need to have with ourselves. Sometimes when someone asks for a dome or a gateway, it doesn't align with our aesthetic. So what do? We say, no, this is not going to work. But that is what they wanted. We're spending their money for the house they're going to live in forever. So are we listening to them? I once saw a young designer sulk because the client did not like her vision of what the project should be. And I said to her, they're not here for your vision. They're here to feel seen in their own vision. And that is really what we are designing for. It may not be something that I am comfortable doing. It may not be something that I would do for myself. But they're not here for me and my choices, but in the way that I can add value to their choices, in the way we can style their choices, make it updated, make it feel good and look good so that they feel comfortable in their own space. The more we chase authorship and signature styles, the more we risk forgetting the audience. If it's a public project, I don't think it matters so much. But if it's someone's personal project, I think we need to design to express and the less we need to design to connect. So, sorry, I'm going to say that again. We need to, the more we design to express who we are, the lesser we actually designing to connect. So, are you a designer or are you an artist is a paradox that I would want everyone to kind of think to themselves. And don't get me wrong, our self-expression is very vital. Our voice matters. But empathy is not about inserting ourselves, it's about suspending yourself. The true meaning of empathy is not a style. Empathy is not a tool. Empathy is the suspension of self. You have to come outside your own self, outside your own judgments, biases, and really feel the other person. And for that, you have to listen. So, how much are we listening? Designers have always worked with tension, between the vision and the need. But that tension now feels like a tug of war. That do we want to be original or do we want to be useful? Do we want to be noticed or do we want to feel needed? The answer isn't either or, but the balance is shifting. So we must ask, if empathy is no longer a competitive edge, then what is? Because the AI is empathizing as much as us. Without empathy, design becomes just decoration. Without empathy, design becomes performance, not a service. So are we giving a service or are we just decorating? That's what we need to ask for. And maybe the future isn't about reclaiming empathy from the machine. Let it do what it does, right? But maybe it's about returning it to ourselves as much as the machine. So not as a buzzword, but as a way of being, a way of showing up quietly, a way of designing humbly, a way of listening carefully, even when it challenges our identity and the way we design. And that's where the real paradox lives, not in the tool, but in the mirror. If you look at yourself. So let's start there. Let's start by asking ourselves, who are we really designing for? And why do we keep forgetting that there's a client and not just us? And how do we balance the two? And in this thought, we have a lot of abundance of ideas, right? When we start designing, there's a lot coming in from the client, from us. And I'm going to come to the next paradox now, which is the sameness of infinite choice. Amit was here before me and he spoke about abundance, that everyone comes to you with these abundant images. We live in a golden age of references. Everything has a reference, from a little handle to a little cabinet to anything. So we're actually just sort of filtering and sorting these references. Everything we need to be inspired is right here. I mean, I'm from a generation where we did not even have Google. We had no Pinterest. We used to actually go to libraries to look for books, for photographs. And we didn't even have digital cameras to capture those photographs. You had to photograph them here and remember what you saw. Or you had to really invest in books instead of software and, kind of curate. And how would we curate? We would just tag and post it those books and take them to the client and open those books and show, okay, we can do it like this. So today we are drowning in options, right? And there are trend reports, daily posts, digestible aesthetics, clients' references. But the more we scroll, what you will realize, because of the algorithm, everything starts to look the same. Because you're getting shown the same things, you're liking the same things. So you're kind of becoming a designer with horse blinders, which is revolving around the sameness. So the paradox of infinite choice is also sameness, which is what a designer has to deal with. That how do you kind of step outside your algorithm? What Pinterest and all these, generative AI has decided to show you, because it knows that this is what you like. There is a style today or a choice today that you have made online. You can't unsee it. They'll constantly push it on you, whether it's textured materials, arched doorways, plastered walls, light wood, mocha interiors, niche lighting, etc., etc. It's all beautiful. It's everywhere. But a lot of it is indistinguishable because the AI is actually producing content, looking at what's available at 80% the speed of humans. So if it is watching the same content and creating the same content, eventually all of this is going to look the same. Now here's the tension. That sameness is what everyone's liking, so it really works because everyone suddenly wants curved sofas and everyone suddenly wants white and mocha and neutral interiors, right? So it does work. It's soothing, it photographs well, it performs. The algorithm rewards it, we repeat it, and our clients expect it. So there is no mismatch of expectations. So we're no longer referencing to explore, we are referencing to confirm कि हाँ ये सबको पसंद है. So, and when you show it to someone, they also like it. So a student once asked me, a young intern that we had in office, that how do I find my style? So I said to her that, you know, you have to lose your taste for a while, because style isn't a board, it's actually a battle. You're actually fighting all the styles that people are throwing at you and trying to develop a look of your own while also adapting to a client. So it's like you're fighting a battle. They're like 100 soldiers and you're trying to get them all out and kill all of them to get to winning the war of getting a product that makes everyone go wow, especially the client. But we're rarely giving ourselves, that space of rejecting 99 images because we are in a rush. We get 20 images, we choose one, अच्छा ऐसे बना दो, ऐसा कर दो, या इसको थोड़ा tweak कर लेते हैं. And that's a challenge that everyone's facing because the client is insisting that I want this. There is no time to wonder, make a mess, experiment. And time has become that resource. We rush to replicate what already works because everyone expects it. And then we wonder why our work feels forgettable, familiar, and sort of very flat. Right? Now, there are two sides to it. That one side says that good design is invisible. It should not scream and shout. And it's quiet luxury. On the other hand, it also says that, okay, create something new. So, and it also says that everyone's liking this. So, we are kind of running in this paradox where we're copy pasting what is the expectation and not discovering and creating as much. We're letting AI create things, but AI is creating from the bandwidth of what already exists. So, we're just going in that loop. And I feel that we're losing the power of inspirations. Inspiration is everywhere, but it is diluting because we're getting inspired by the same things. So this is a paradox, again, I'm leaving you with. When you have too much, it doesn't always feed creativity. Sometimes it floods it. And there's only that much water we all need. So always sort and filter and consume as much as you create. Always try and create more than you consume. Because an abundance of consumption will train your algorithm to think in a particular way and you will start creating in that particular way. But if you take some inspiration, create something else, also repost your creations back. I feel it challenges your algorithm if you're using that to kind of expose yourself. I mean, everyone can't travel, everyone can't visit art shows, everyone can't do everything. So yes, we do depend on digital sources as designers, especially young designers, to get our inputs, right? You can only get that many books, but don't let the algorithm train you. Train the algorithm by liking different things, disrupting the way you like things. So it shows you outside of your purview. You can open your feed and you'll see it's all clean lines and sofas. You can't tell who made that, and more importantly, why they made it, because everything looks the same. So design is losing its fingerprint, where every fingerprint was unique because everything is looking the same. So really, what do we do now? Let's get uncomfortable again. Let's stop scrolling and start sketching. Let's start asking, what if I choose something I don't like on my feed? And even though I'm not sure it'll work, but let me confuse my algorithm. Let's make something that feels a little weird, a little off, but maybe it's real. Because real originality sometimes and most often actually feels awkward before it feels iconic. So first it's awkward and then it looks great. We don't need to reject all the trends, but we do need to remember that our job is not just to follow taste, but to shape it. So if your next project looks like your last one, what you did before this, ask yourself, who are you designing for? Are you designing for the client who's different, right? Or are you designing with the algorithm that's feeding you? Or are you really designing with your own sense of safety ki haan ye chalega, let's not break it. Infinite choice doesn't always guarantee innovation. Sometimes it just guarantees repetition. So the most radical thing a designer can do today is to make something that no one asked for, but something that no one might also forget. So think about it, train your feed, don't let the feed train you. I'm going to come with that to the last paradox, which is disappearing designer, which I think is going to be a concern for all of us soon. So let's talk about presence, the quiet fear that maybe we might disappear, right? And there's this question that's going around that the tools are getting smarter, the platforms are bigger, the access is wider. I have clients who come and say, oh, this is my rendering. I did it on Mid-Journey. I gave it this console, this art, this paneling, and said, okay, make me my lobby, right? So everyone can design now. So they say, you can build your own living room in an app with the layout planning. You can get a bathroom layout from Pinterest, generate a brand identity in 30 seconds flat. So where does a designer go? We used to be gatekeepers of all this, right? We used to say, okay, we have the vision, we have the skill, we have authorship, hum hi karenge ye boss. Now we're just another step in the workflow. So it's like you get the design, you go to a designer, acha ye bana do, and we're a clickable option, we're literally a prompt away. So the client used to tell us, this is what I want. GPT and other tools are actually fine-tuning that prompt, asking them more questions and answering them and telling them exactly what they want packaged in a validated format. And it's also giving them faster, cheaper and familiar options, what they're comfortable with. We're expected to just make it look good and not ask questions. Client aa gaya, ye chahiye. Don't ask questions, ye banwa do. So what if we don't comply? If we don't comply, an algorithm will. It will start generating drawings now. And a lot of furniture brands are now taking concepts and generating furniture drawings from it. So we're producing more design than ever, but it also feels like we're leaving as designers less of ourselves behind. There's very little bit of each one of us in what all that we design, because in a world that is obsessed, as we discussed earlier, with scale and efficiency, the messy, emotional, deeply human parts of it, are kind of gone. Which, in a way, as a business owner, I would say is not a bad thing, because you don't have to depend on people, but we're also losing the human touch, the long conversations, the failed experiments and layouts, the hand-drawn detail that no one ever knew about and noticed. Somehow we get the end product like this. And that somehow changes everything. A contractor once told me, we were at a site and we had given a very complex detail, and he said that, ma'am, ye detail kaun dekhega, ye joint? Aap chodo na. So I said, I will see it. The house will always know. He laughed because he thought it was stupid, but I really meant it, because the house will always know and I will always remember that this is the stone joint that we designed. No one may notice it. The soul of design is in the individual fingerprints, in that tiny little millimeter detail that actually nobody sees, but it sets it apart, whether it's a little shadow that it gives, whether it's a little shadow gap or anything. The risk is that we are smoothing ourselves out. Every shortcut, every smart tool, every plug-and-play solution, it optimizes us out of our own work. We are not needed. The moment we detail less, the moment we remove a few things. So what's left? Pretty places, beautiful brands, no trace of who made them. You can't tell so-and-so made this and so-and-so made this, or why. What is the purpose, right? So this is a paradox that one is that we want to listen to the client, but we also want to have our own identity there in a project. So how do you kind of break that? And with AI coming in, if identity is not needed, if we don't have an identity, then AI can do it anyways, right? So if the designer disappears, will the design really matter in times to come? I don't think we're obsolete, but I do think we're at the risk of becoming invisible with the AI doing our designs and us just strategizing and executing them. If we keep outsourcing the very things that made us essential, say writing a project brief, making the layouts, presenting the drawing beautifully, there is something, and when you, I don't know how many of you render plans, when you render plans, you realize, okay, this corner is looking empty in my graphic composition. So you add a little lamp, you add a little plant. So all of that kind of is a three-dimensional sensitivity that we have. Our ideas, our instincts, our ability to hold contradictions and not erase it. You live with contradictions. Okay, if I do this sofa here, it will block the space, but it will also make the guests congregate. We don't need to fight the future. We actually need to show up in it and live with those contradictions, with our presence, with perspective. We need to keep doing things which are undownloadable and not definable by an algorithm. Because an algorithm knows what's trending, we need to know what's true. We all know clients don't know what they want. So how can an AI kind of develop their brief? And that's really what we need to play on, the unheard, the unsaid, the unseen. And that's the intuition that we have, at least at the moment as humans, over the AI. We don't need to be everywhere, but wherever we are, they should know that we were here. So when a client enters that bedroom and they open that drawer, and under it are their slippers, bedroom slippers, very conveniently placed, because I told them that that's the shelf we're getting it for it. They will remember that we were here and we designed it and we thought about it. And that's the real work, to keep showing up, not just as professionals, but as people who listen, who care, and who design lifestyles and moments and memories that resonate. And that is really how the designer stays. So let's end this talk not with an answer, but with actually a question. One is, of course, who are we designing for? But that's something we all target, right? Okay, yeah, it's the client, it's their money. But what are we designing for? Because paradoxes by nature don't resolve, they actually expand. They ask us to hold multiple truths at once. You can actually live with the paradox. It doesn't have to be this or that. It can be this and that. The biggest paradox actually lives within us. What are we really designing for? Is it for impact? Is it for innovation? Is it for our own egos? Is it for one hot minute on a blog? Or for a home that actually outlives us? Is it for the applause? Is it for the archive? Is it for the legacy? And yes, there's also the client. Let's not forget them in this mix, who believes they know what they want, even though they don't even know what they don't know. And that's really what we play with, a paradox of its own. Because the biggest mystery isn't the project, it's the process that we do. It's the process of the designer, the process that we commit to again and again. When we start a project, we don't know what it will look like. We don't know anything. We don't know how many bedrooms will come out, how large will the dresser be, what will be the facade like. We sketch, we obsess, we revise, we question. We give months, sometimes years, to getting something right that no one will ever see. It could be a storeroom inside someone's house, or a dresser, or a personal bathroom. We design to understand the way we intend the person should live. And we do it again and again. And when we start, we know nothing. We do it with a kind of a blind faith, a confidence that there will be a treasure at the end of the design rainbow. We know that something great is going to come out. And it's not unlike belief or religion or myth. I would like to take you back to the word, I would like to take you back to our own faiths and our own religions. We haven't seen God, but we know it exists. We know our higher faith exists. We as designers also follow something unseen, intangible, unproven, unfinished very often. And we trust that it will reveal itself at the end of it. That is the secret contract every designer signs, to not always know, but to always make without knowing, to keep showing up with faith in the invisible, in the unseen, because the paradox of not knowing and being pulled into directions is not a flaw in the process. It is the process. When we are pulled, friction is created, discomfort is created, and that's when that tension is what sharpens our output. The confusion is what clarifies things. The discomfort reveals what truly matters. So next time you pick up a pencil or click a mouse, and when you don't know what's going to happen, or you open that new site plan and ask yourself not just what you're designing, but why are you designing it? Is it to be seen? Is it to be remembered, or to belong? Or simply to create something that outlives you, even if no one remembers your name? So here's the paradox, that we don't always know what we're designing, but we trust it will matter. And you may never see the win sometimes. You may never see someone enjoying it, but you know they will enjoy it. Because deep down, you know the whole process is worth it. There's a beauty that comes in not knowing and still having the confidence that it's going to happen. So designers have always operated like believers, like religion fanatics, I would say. We follow visions only we can see. We build for people we have never met, mostly. We invest in the invisible and trust that it will reveal itself. That's not foolishness. That's actually faith. It's creative faith, and it's creative religion. That kind of keeps moving when you're in doubt. You still move. आपको नहीं पता कि आप ये solve कर पाओगे, ये layout बनेगा, but you know बन जाएगा. But क्या बनेगा, we don't know. This is what anchors us when the world moves too fast. It tells you that there is a treasure at the end of that rainbow, even if I don't know what it looks like yet. Maybe that's what makes design and designers truly timeless, having design as a guiding religion with rituals of sketches, revisions instead of temple rituals, site visits, and surrender, and improvising. A constant paradox between what's been done and what must be undone, a quiet faith that gives us the courage to coexist with the contradiction and the paradoxes, to build permanence in fleeting times, to create the tangible out of the unseen and unknown, to dive into the unknown again and again and again. And I don't know if you've heard about the Amazon.com business philosophy that they train all their employees to have that day one energy. A designer has day one energy across their entire career on the first day of that first plan that they draw for every project. And that really is where we draw our energy from, because the answers keep changing. The client asks and the processes will evolve, but the confidence that we can solve for every paradox, that stays. It is not always with the information and the data that is available. Sometimes it's the data that is not available. So I'm going to leave you with this thought that get comfortable with knowing that you will know, and we don't even know what we don't know. So, and that's the beauty that does not make us lose faith or confidence. Thank you, everyone.